Right. So, good evening, guys. The same thing that we're going to do every day. So, who is going to guess what we're going to learn today?
Brute forcing.
Good, good. Password forcings, good. And
Password.
password cracking is already done. Somebody else guessed it. So, anything else that you want to guess out? This is going to be really interesting today, obviously. Mhm. Hello? Sorry, I didn't get you. Your voice is breaking.
Gaining access, sir.
Gaining access. Okay, very good. That was a very clever and good guess. Any others? Okay, two things what we're going to learn today are actually up from your guesses. One more thing what we missed out yesterday is Open VAS Scanner. So I'm going to show, I just showed you the UI and how it functions in yesterday's class. So I'll actually, teach you on how to set that Open VAS Scanner right up. Okay, so this is what we're going to see today. So we're going to start with Open VAS Scanner first. So as I told you in the exam, so in the assignments yesterday, have you guys, had a look at the Nessus or Qualys, Nexpos, whatever it is? So Nessus is where you can actually, register and get a free trial. One thing about that, and Nessus, other than Nessus, Qualys and Nexpos and many other proprietary tools, you can actually check them out. Maybe some won't give you the trial, but then have a read through whatever they do. Okay, so I hope you'll check out the Nessus part of it, and then let's actually dive into this. So Open VAS Scanner, as I told you, this is a very very good GUI based vulnerability scanner, something like that, all consolidated kind of thing, where you can also call it as an open source alternative for these proprietary tools that actually perform something similar. And then the usage part of it, this actually comes built in with Kali. All you have to do is you see this, you see the options bar over here to the left. Click that, and when it opens, go ahead to vulnerability analysis, and in the Open VAS Scanner, you can see the initial setup. So this is what you're going to do first. Okay, click the initial setup so that it sets up your admin account and etc, etc, etc. And yeah, you can see the procedure code. And anyways, once the initial setup is done, that'll make an admin account for you, giving you a random string password, which you can obviously change by adding users or something. But then if at all you want to use the same password, you can obviously use the same password, but store it. Okay, or else if you don't store the password, you might have to run the initial setup again and again. So, and once that initial setup is over, it'll give you a local hosted link with I think so it is 9392 code. So clicking on that link will take you the UI of Greenbone Open VAS Scanner. Okay, so yeah, let's actually see.
I cannot hear your voice. Sure.
I have muted it actually. I just muted it so that you can, you can actually see the process running. I'm not saying anything.
Is this open versus built-in function in Kali Linux?
Yes, the Open VAS Scanner comes built in with Kali, and if at all you don't see it in the further releases or something, all you
No,
have to do is
actually it's not present for us no right now. Just searching in it. No, it's not there.
right. That's what. If at all it is not present with your further releases, all you have to do is apt install OpenVAS. And before that, obviously update your update your repositories from your official Kali repositories. And if at all this is not present in the official Kali repositories too, then you know where to look for it. Anyways, all the open source projects are obviously available in GitHub. So directly jump into Google, type out for OpenVAS, you'll get something instantly. That's it.
Yeah.
And one more thing, guys, actually that was a good question that was pointed out right now. For every release that they do, they might actually change the default tools that come up with that particular version, but then you don't have to worry. Anyways, that will be in the repository itself. All you have to do is apt install and that particular thing's name, the tool's name. So yeah, for example, for my version, I got OpenVAS built-in installed, and if it is not, all you have to do is apt install OpenVAS because that is there in the repository. For example, one more example is BEEF XSS framework. That is also called as Beef cross-site scripting framework. That was again built in with 2019.2 and 3, but later on from 2019.4, he didn't give the Beef XSS framework. So all you have to do is either go to GitHub, get it down, clone it, and something like that. Or else, if it is there in the repository, all you have to do is update your repository and apt install. That's all. That's it. So, all right. I think we have something over here. All right, so there you go. You can see the UI. I don't know why this is not coming up in full screen mode. So let's leave it. So there you go. I already have my account set up over here. So it doesn't create another admin account. Log in. So you guys able to see the dashboard?
So your voice is getting low probably.
Yeah, I can see the rest.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's great. So are you guys able to see my dashboard?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, so I already have my Metasploitable started up, which is running on 1.13. So the first thing you're going to do is when you install it by default, it will have refresh for every 30 seconds or whatever thing. But then before you run a scan, you actually have to set that profile up, okay, whatever you're running for. So for that, you have to put this no auto fresh button. You have to select that option. So what that means is, so whenever the scan is running, you have to refresh so that the results will be updated on the visualizations that you see. So for that, this particular tool that is what do you call OpenVAS scanner has actually provided you with these automatic refresh buttons too. So but initially, when you're setting up with a profile, you might have to put it up to no auto refresh because you don't want to refresh it for every 30 seconds or 60 seconds when you're setting up a profile, right? So let's go to this scans that you have and let's go to tasks. And yeah, you might have already seen this. So this is already a task that is there. So you can actually, perform different actions from the task 2. I just want to delete it right now. So there you can see that you have, okay, I don't want this guide of this because I'm here to guide you, right? So you have 0 to 0 tasks. And now what you want to do is click on this star, which will give you a new task. So click on the new task and you have the new tasks coming up. Okay, so I want to name it Metasploitable scan. And on the scan targets, this is where you have to choose on what target you want to perform. Okay, I don't have my Metasploitable already written over there, so I'll create the new target and I want to name it Meta. And if you see, this is set to the local host, and here is where you have to enter your target. I want to look up for 1.13. That is where my Metasploitable is actually running. And if at all you upload from a file, you have different options over here too. You can check them out. And I suggest you don't, you don't actually tamper with any things, but just leave it as it is. Now, if you want to check about this, this is about the port list that you want to scan around. So I want to leave this to be the top TCP, or if at all you want to go to all TCP, you can obviously. Okay, so let's scroll to the side and create. So this is going to create your target, which is 1.13, that is up over there, and add results to asset, yeah, minimum quality of detection 70%, etc., etc. And here you can select the scanner type. Okay, open as default or CV type of scan. CV, I think I already told you about CV scan, so that will take the reference from there. So I want to leave it to open as default. And scan config is where you want to change your scan type. So do you want to do it as a full and fast, or full and very fast, crazy fast kind of thing, full and very deep, full and very deep, ultimate host discovery system, whatever you want. So so full and very deep is where you, full and very deep and very deep ultimate is where you want to check out the smallest vulnerability, whatever you have. So let me actually go ahead with full and fast right now. I don't want to waste time on this. And yeah, sequential. So this is where you can change your sequence of how it's going to scan. And again, these are number of scans, number of hosts, whatever. Okay. So now once you've configured the task, again, go ahead and click the create button. This will create you the task. So now you can see this. You have one of one tasks, and here you have your actions. So I want to start it. And so there you go, you have it. So it has requested for the scan, and that will go on. And let me refresh this once so that I have the scan percentage bar that shows up, progress bar. So we'll have to wait. All right. So if you can see the status bar, there's 1%. So the scan is running. Now this is where you want to start up with refresh every 30 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever time period you want. So I want to put it for 30. Let's just wait for 1 minute or two, and if at all it takes much time, actually it will take a bit of time because it has to run multiple scanners. So let's just wait for 2 minutes, and then if at all it's still taking time, let's leave that in the background and let's move to the next.
So can I change my password? How to do it?
So while after you initially set it up, you have an option to configure your users too as well. I mean, you can add your user, one more user if you want, and you can change the password there itself. Okay,
So this Greenbow
seems like
Security is using a browser as a platform or it's an online one?
this is using browser as a platform to display its dashboard. This is hosted on your local host itself. Okay,
Okay.
so basically you can run it even without internet too. So this is actually hosted on your own local host server. So this is not something that you have to online ping it. I mean, remotely ping it or something. On
Okay.
392 port, this is hosted on your local host. If you can see the loopback IP address over here, 127.0.0.1, this is your home, local host address. So yeah, seems like this is actually going to take time. So let me actually stop it. And since I already told you the procedure, how to set up your Metasploitable and how to set up this as well, let's see you guys do it in your systems and get back to me after your report is done. Okay, what's it? Let's put this in today's assignment as an add-on so that it's already 6:33. So I think we have other stuff to do as well. So let me actually quickly get back to my presentation. So major part about today is password cracking. So right, what are the different ways you can actually break through a password?
By creating a text file and continuously running like a what we say ఒక టెక్స్ట్ ఫైల్ లో అన్ని పాస్వర్డ్స్ పెట్టి అన్ని పాస్వర్డ్స్ టెస్ట్ చేసి కంటిన్యూస్ చేయొచ్చు.
That's good. Okay. And what all other types do you have? So whatever you told is something about a brute force. What is the other and the safest thing to actually do? Okay. So the
Uh,
safest, yeah.
knowing the person details and guessing it.
Good. Exactly. So the safest thing to actually do when you're actually dealing with password cracking or stealing away the credentials is guessing it. And how are you going to guess the right password?
By knowing him or
By
the
gathering
Yes,
information.
exactly. So this all proves my point when I actually started this course, saying that the first point, information gathering,
Information gathering.
most important stages in your hacking. That was the first point. And second point being hacking is nothing confined to only a system or a device. It also deals with understanding the person's mindset as well. Okay. So guessing the password is something, as I told you, is one of the safest ways because you won't be running any tools, nothing waste of your time. If you guess the right password, boom, you have the access. Okay. So that is something passive without using any tools. Now, if at all you want to use tools and if at all you want to brute force, this is how you do it. And in the brute force too, you have different types of brute force too. For example, the most commonly used two of them are dictionary based, and the other is pure brute force. Pure brute force is where you check all the alphabets, 26 alphabets, starting from one alphabet to 26 letters in the one dash kind of thing. So again, you have to get your permutations and combinations over here. So if it is a 1-letter password, so 26 letters in that one, try it out 26 times, doesn't work, go to 2-lettered passwords, then try out all the combinations, go to 3-lettered, go to 4-lettered.
It will take a lot of time, I think.
Yes, exactly. So the pure brute force generally takes a lot of time and lots of computation power. So
But we also have a certain amount of these attempts, like only few attempts we should process.
yes. So that is actually a defense mechanism that is put up against these things. So against the pure brute forces or whatever types of brute forces, because brute force is nothing but keeping whatever you know and checking it out one by one. So a best way to actually counter this is whatever he told. So if you limit the number of logins maybe to 3 or 5, that can be the like, a countermeasure to brute force, direct brute force. But then still, if you see, there are many people out there. I mean, for their services, they don't actually put up the limitations to number of trials. For example, why don't you take services in your operating systems itself? So you have FTP servers, you have different services, HTTP and SMTP, and then whatnot, SSH. Do you think all those have these limitations to break them through? Only the people who are looking forward to be much more secure are the people who deploy those kind of mechanisms. And yes, it is a good practice to actually have limited number of logins, but this can also be sometimes a pain in the head, because if at all a genuine user is trying to do, and if somebody has a keyboard like mine which doesn't cooperate with me, and he didn't want to type out the wrong password, but then I typed out and it got locked. So you have some bad stuff about that too, some limitations about that too. So that is something about having the limitations. So let's actually go to the procedure itself. So yeah, I told you about pure brute force, right? So now what is dictionary based? A dictionary based brute force is where you have a list of words arranged in a dictionary, or maybe random words or something like that. But then the whole point is a list of words. Okay, that list is actually fed to the tool, the brute forcing tool, and the brute forcing tool goes on and spiders those words from the list, and it puts up in the feed, and it tests out for those. Okay, that is the difference between a dictionary based attack and a pure brute force attack. So to feed up that list, we need a list itself, is it? So this is where we get to the concept of word lists. And whenever I tell brute forcing, that isn't limited only to password cracking itself. You can use brute forcing and the word lists in, obviously the one is username and password password cracking. One thing is that. The next is subdomain listing, as I was telling you to check out the nmap DNS brute. So you have to feed a word list so that it will take the words from that list, and it will check out if there is any subdomain with that particular name of the in that DNS server. Okay, that is the second thing. And the third is directory listing. So again, this takes you back to the index of that I was saying. So index of, and you found some movies and stuff. So that was about opening up a directory listing in your server. So you can actually use this with a tool that I actually spoke about in the previous class, Derb or Derbuster, which obviously we are not going to discuss in this course. So you can use these word lists for directory listing too. And Kali has some default word lists as well. So that is located in the share of the user. So let me actually go ahead and show you the location. User share, and you have your word lists folder here. So go ahead to word lists, and there you have all these stuff. Okay, so as I told you, see, you can find derb here. This is to find out directories, number of directories, and wfuzz. So this the wfuzz is a sublisting fuzzer. So okay, let's not discuss that right now. So you can find all those related word lists over there. So check out something. Let me. So you have all these different kinds of word lists. Okay. So let me actually open small.txt to show you. See, there you go. So generally, when you're talking about the word list pertaining to one particular kind of attack that you're going to do, be it directory listing or password brute forcing or something like that, you generally have to put something that is related to whatever you're doing. Okay, you can't go and put some random words and ask it to brute force it directly. So if you see over here, this is something that that you use for directory listing. So what kind of directories can generally websites have? You can have logs, you can have cyberdogs, you can have admin statistics or something like that. WebINF is one particular folder that you can have, and all these different kind of folders that are actually related to the directory listings in a web. Okay, so this is how it actually goes. You have to put those related words, and this is where you actually get stuck up when you're using this to crack wireless services, that is your Wi-Fi around your house, because Indian word lists you can't expect. Okay. So take it as a joke or whatever, but then Indian word lists, you have to create it yourself. And yeah, so going back to that, so there was also one particular thing called rocku.txt.gz. You can unzip that. That is also a crazy word list. You can use that too. And the other thing is, you can, I was also telling you about sec lists. So you can go to this particular link, or let me actually share that link to you. So this is a rep in the GitHub where the person actually, okay, where is this one? So I've pasted that in the chat. And then, yeah, let's go back to this. So this is a rep in the GitHub where you have all different types of word lists that the person came up with, and he put it up in different folders itself. You can use it. Okay. And they're properly organized and etc. whatever they are. And you have, the, if you get into that, you have these many lists for top usernames, and they're actually, you can find out Microsoft, so not Microsoft. So this is SQL, and some different, again, different kinds of word lists as well. And then you have discovery, DNS discovery. So this is where you can actually get the subdomains part of it to, sublist your domains kind of thing. That is one. And different other word lists you have. So directly you can go to this particular repository and get this sec lists in your thing. And whenever you have to, put up the location, you can use this location directly to brute force. Okay. So that being said about the word lists, let's go to our first tool today, HYDRA. So HYDRA is a crazy tool that is used to brute force. This is a very popular tool as well again. And HYDRA also comes up written with Kali. And the usage, if at all you're confused by this, I'll explain it to you, don't worry. HYDRA has the capability to brute force many services. That includes your normal SSH, SMTP, FTP, and whatnot. Okay, HTTP included as well. So a small thing about the usage, give out the command HYDRA and then tag L or tag capital L. So what is the difference between tag small l and tag capital L is, when you want to provide a single username, give it a tag small l and specify the username. If at all you want to give a list, tag capital L and give the location of the list. The same thing for passwords, tag P and tag capital P. Tag small p whenever you want to brute force that with a single password and in combination with a single username and different other usernames. That over here. And if at all you want to pass a list, tag capital P and you can pass the location to the list. And something about the tag ENSR. This option enables the trial of null, same, and reverse of it. So what do you mean by that is, so if you guys remember, we nmap scanned the Metasploitable, right? So whenever, when we scanned that, it showed that Metasploitable had an anonymous FTP login. So if at all anonymous FTP login is allowed, the password will be null. All you have to do is enter anonymous in the username, and for the password, all you have to do is enter. So in such cases, enabling tag en will be useful. And same is whenever you have your username and password same. So if at all you have admin as your username and admin as your password, you don't have to specify any password list. Directly go specify your username and use same. So that also you can use. And reverse of it. So there are actually people who put the reverse of their username as a password. For example, if I have ADMIN as my admin username, the password they'd put was Nimda. Okay, don't go to the Bahubali part of it. So reverse of admin is NIMDA. So there are people who do that too. So you don't have to work on creating the word lists that have all these, but then just enable the tag E and put NSR. That will check for those. And then after that, all you have to do is specify the service. So let me demonstrate this to you. And anyways, obviously tag H will give you the help as well. So HYDRA tag H, you can see all different types of how you can use it and stuff. And you have different other options too. If you want to check out, please go ahead and check it out. And then you can actually output whatever you get. And let's actually perform this on our Metasploitable. So my Metasploitable is running on 192.168.1.13, and yes, so this is up and running. So let me show you. So I know that I anyways know that the credentials, whenever you install the MSF admin, Metasploitable, you can actually see that credentials of login right at the start, and SSH actually has MSF admin, and MSF admin itself has the username and password. So let me show you how it functions. So I'm providing a single username, MSF admin. So I want to press, I want to enter the tag small l, and I know that it is MSF ADMIN, and tag small p, again MSF ADMIN. So this is where you can actually, actually use the E and NSR without using the tag MSF admin, because this is actually the same. And these are atomic too. You can just enter E, tag ENN, tag ENS, tag ENR, or tag ENR, NS, whatever combination you want. So NSR you can enter if you want, but then I just want to enter it manually over here. So that being said, enter the host 1.13. And did I mess out anything over here? And the service, I want to brute force the SSH service. So run this, and there you go. Obviously it performed it very fast because I have provided only one, and obviously I know that it will crack it. So yeah, and one more thing I wanted to add, which I forgot, is the port. So if at all some person is running a service that is not on the default port, you can actually mention the port as well using a tag S, if I'm not wrong. So let me actually check it out if that is tag S. Where is that? Yeah, so tag S is for port, right? I'm right. So you can mention tag S and you can give in the port as well. So that is how you do it with HYDRA. And this is not done with HYDRA yet. We'll be actually showing you it in combination with it. Yeah.
So for what kind of services is this tool for? Like, is it for every service? Like
Every
you used it for SSH, so I can use it for FTP and all.
Yes, you can use it for FTP, SMTP, or whatever has an authentication. You can use it. Even you can use it for web-based applications as well.
So
but
how will it know that like there is a password for it needs to?
What? Come again.
So I can't use it for Instagram and Facebook, right?
You can use it, is what I'm saying.
Achha.
You can use it, but then if at all you are providing a web page, you have to provide the URL and also the parameters that you have to brute force. So you have to provide $.
And copy those features.
What?
inspect element and copy the header files and
No. You don't have to do all that inspect element and all stuff. All you need is a URL that you need to that you need to mention in terms of the in place of the host, and after that you have to specify the parameters that you want to brute force. And I suggest you that whenever you want to do web-based brute forcing, go ahead and check this particular tool, which is specifically for web penetration testing, burp suite.
QL. Okay.
Okay.
So Hydra can obviously do the web-based brute forcing as well, but then I'd use it for the remote connection kind of services like SSH or FTP. You can obviously do it for HTTPs as well, but then I'd use Hydra for these. And if at all I have to brute force those parameters, I'd use burp suite. So burp suite is something that is specifically for web penetration testing, where you can perform different tests, like, as I told you, directory listings. You can check out for directory listings. You can do an endless spider where you can find out for information leakage. You have a sitemap of your website. You can go ahead and check for code revelations, and you can also intercept the requests using a proxy. And whenever you intercept, you have to send that request to the intruder. And when you send the intruder, you have to select the parameters of the brute force and upload the file. That will brute force you the login. Okay, so burp suite is what you want to use whenever you're doing your Instagram or Facebook login or something like that. But then obviously they are very secure, so do it if you do this, right?
Can you tell me how to use burp suite?
Burp suite is not covered in this course. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So ping me after this session. I'll send you the resources on how to start with burp suite. So if at all you're actually something serious about starting with your bug bounty programs as well, web application penetration testing is something that you need at the top. Okay, and if at all you need web application penetration testing as one of your cores, you have to have this thing, what do you call, burp suite. And burp suite is actually a proprietary tool as well, and as an alternative you can have OWASP SAP. Okay, so check this out as well. So that being said, let's move on to the next tool for today.
So HYDRA is not working for SFTP.
Which one?
HYDRA, that HYDRA brute force HYDRA one.
Yeah.
It's not working for SFTP.
You might have not mentioned the proper service, is the service properly, or else there might have been some disturbance in the this thing that you entered as well. The command that you've entered.
No, I have run it for SSH and it worked, and I've just changed SSH to SFTP and it's not working. It's saying some error. It's showing some error.
Yeah, so the thing is, whatever victim you want to crack up the SFTP, it has to run the SFTP service first. So whatever services the victim is running, only those can be checked for brute forcing, is it? So if the victim doesn't run that service, you can't brute force it. As simple as that. So if at all it is running FTP, maybe you can actually try it for FTP, not SFTP. So, or else mention that port and the service as well. So you have to change that command, whatever you're putting up, and check whatever services it is running first of all. So I know that Metasploitable is actually running SSH, so I use the SSH to cut it. Understood?
Okay, sir.
Right. The next tool we're gonna use is CEWL. So you can have it with your own pronunciation, Quill or Seal or whatever. So CEWL. So we talked about using your word lists here. Now, with the help of CEWL, we are actually going to generate word lists out of a URL. Okay. So CEWL is also something that again comes built in with your Kali as well. And the usage is something like this. The tag M will take the minimum word length that you want to start your word length. Making your words with. For example, if I give tag M4, it will start adding up the words based on the length size, which will be minimum 4. So it won't take any words that is less than 4. So, all your A and the will get eliminated over there. Obviously, they won't be the password. So the tag M is for that, and tag D is for depth. So how many pages do you want to spider from that particular page to grab all these stuff? I mean, all these words from it. So that is something about the depth, and URL is where you obviously have to enter the URL, and tag W is to write it to an output file. So let me show you how it is done. So let's actually go to Firefox. So there we have it. And I want to ping my, so I want to ping my 192.168 and 1.13, that is Metasploitable. And this will give me a web page. Okay. And I want to save this to make, to generate a word list out of this. And why am I saying this is because generally people tend to have use something related to their site as their passwords or something like that. This is how you're gonna do it. So let me go ahead and do this. So let me make a words, cd words, and so I'm going to use cwn. I want to start with minimum word length of 5. I don't want anything under 5. And depth, I think maybe 2 pages would be okay here. 5, and then the URL is http://192.168.1.13, and I want to write it out to a word list saying words.txt, and let's see what it does. All right, so it is created the word list. Let's check that word list right away. Let's see what words it is actually connected, and there we go. So these are all the words in that particular page, and you can see many words over here. So let's actually use this word list to crack open our Metasploitable. See guys, one thing, everything is happening over here very easily because I actually know what is actually happening. So in real time, this is not going to be this easy. This is a vulnerable machine that is running vulnerable services. And I know the user ID and password as well. And I know that MSF admin as a user name and password is actually present in the web page as well. So this is to show you the demonstration of the tool. And in real time, if you run it with the same stuff and expect the same results, now again, don't come back to me because situations are different. Okay, so let me, okay. I think I have to type out. So HYDRA. Let me give only one username. I actually can pass on the same word list for this as well, but then let me give it only for the words.txt. Now I'm giving just the words.txt because I'm already inside the location where it is. So if at all you are at any other location, you have to provide the relative location of that particular word list or the full location as well. So that being said, at that and 192.168.1.13. 13 and SSH. Did I miss anything? No, let me start. And one thing, if at all you're talking about brute forcing, you have to be patient.
So can you say once again what CEWL is exactly doing?
All right, so CEWL is generating a word list that you can use for a site. Okay, so let me tell you an example. So I'm a person who owns a website, okay, who has hosted a website. And anyways, when you're hosting a website, you have to host it in a server or something like that, which will pretty obviously be a Ubuntu server, and it will have its SSH open too, generally, okay? So I'm saying that, so for example, I have a website named hacker.org, okay, and I have different content in my web pages as well, okay, and in my SSH service, or in my whatever service I have on your different services, I have different accounts as well. So my username is admin for suppose, and one of my password is a word from the web page as well. So for example, have you guys heard of something called as a lead mode?
No, sir.
Okay, so a lead mode is where you use different symbols for instead of texts to make it look a bit different. Okay, so okay, that thing is not opening over there. So let me actually show. For example, let's take the name. Let's take the name Stark. So instead of S, I use 5. Instead of T, so you can use a plus or a T, your wish. Instead of A, I want to use at the rate, or at, if at all you want to call that. And R is R and K is K. So this is something called as a lead mode, where you use some similar symbol instead of the exact word itself. Okay, so if at all I want to put Stark as my password, you can understand that this is a very, very simple thing to break. Okay, now if at all I want to use Stark only as my password, but then I just change its appearance. Now by changing its appearance using lead mode, I have 5, that is a number, I have a special symbol. So didn't this make my password much stronger? It did, is it? So lead mode is something that people generally use to make their simple passwords a bit more complicated, but then you can easily remember it as well. So something like that. So if at all my web page that I've hosted, hacker.org, has a word called as HACK3R. So if you look at just the structure, this is nothing but hacker in a lead mode. Okay, hacker in lead mode. And for suppose that I have one of my services or all my services on my server having this particular word exactly as my password, this is where I can use CEWL, or Quell, or whatever you call it, CEWL, to generate possible word list from that web page. And obviously that web page has this word, and I'm going to use that particular word list generated from that to crack open or brute force that particular service, and boom, you have it. So something like that. So if people have words that are there in their own pages, as one of their passwords, so that is where CEW can help. Okay, does this clear your doubt?
Yes, sir.
That's good. So that was a good question actually. So anybody else has any doubts up till now in anything?
No, sir.
Okay, that's great. So let this thing actually run in the background. Let's leave it. Obviously brute force will take time, and I'm not saying I'm going to stop it, but then leave it. Let that run. And meanwhile, let us come to the next part of today. Metasploit framework. So we've actually discussed about this in the last one or two classes as well. So who can tell me what is Metasploit framework? Did you guys do some homework on it? Come on, try to guess it. If at all you didn't do any homework on this, you can actually read it from the slide and tell me whatever idea you got. So just take a take. What is it? Guys, am I audible to you?
Metasploit is an exploitation framework containing tons of exploits, payloads, of levels.
See, when I tell you to read it from the slide, it doesn't mean that literally read it out from the slide. Okay, I meant read the slide and tell me whatever you understood from it. No guesses? Okay.
Platform to scan a network.
Platform to scan a network. I'm sorry, that's not.
It's like a one place for all the scripts and all for exploits.
Scripts and exploits. Okay, a bit close, but not exactly. Good try. Any others?
I think it runs same as the other OS or Linux platforms like to work on with it.
Yeah. Any other? Okay, so let me break the ice for you. Metasploit framework is an exploitation framework. Okay, so what do you mean by an exploitation framework is this is a consolidated platform containing tons and tons of exploit codes, tons and tons of payloads, and tons of auxiliaries to actually go ahead, use that script and exploit a service. Okay, so Metasploit framework is something that is so popular that it definitely is present in every hacker's arsenal. Okay, and not only Metasploit, I actually told you some of the other tools too. HYDRA is also one of them for password cracking. Obviously, you can find other tools too other than HYDRA as well. Crunch is another tool to generate word lists. That is your assignment for today about Crunch. I'll tell you later. And Nmap. Obviously, Nmap is also going to be in that tool list of yours. The toolkit, penetration testing toolkit. Nmap is going to be definitely there. Metasploit is going to be definitely there. And other than that, if at all you're a web pen tester, Burp Suite also is going to be there. Okay, and so these are some you can say a kind of mandatory tools that people pursuing cybersecurity will have. So such is the popularity of Metasploit framework and also the usage and also the importance of it. So now you can understand why I'm stressing so much on that when you see the thing yourself. So let me go to Rapid 7. So Rapid 7 is something that actually came up with this Metasploit framework. So this is a site of that, and Metasploit also has two different versions, pro version and community version, but community version is more than enough for us. Pro version, if you take Metasploit Unleashed, that is something that will take you to a different level. Okay, that is something similar to the Burp Suite as well. Burp Suite also has two particular versions. One is the community, the other is pro. Pro will give you some advanced spiders and etc. Whereas community version, I think most probably that will be enough. So let's not get into Burp Suite right now. Let's get let's stick with Metasploit framework first. Okay. So before you start up your Metasploit framework, that is before you start it up for the first time, you need to start your PostgreSQL service, which is a database service, just like your MySQL. So this is to store all this. Oh, okay, right. So if you can see here, HYDRA has actually completed the brute forcing, and it said that one target successfully completed. Obviously, we gave only one target and one valid password found for that username. Okay, So if at all you give a list of usernames and list of passwords, it will obviously come up with different others too, just other than MSF admin. So this was just to demonstrate your stuff. So there we go. We are done with HYDRA. Any doubts on HYDRA or something?
No, sir.
All right. So that's great. So as I was telling you, we need to start your PostgreSQL service, and the command is service PostgreSQL start. There you go. This will start up your Postgres service. You can see it active. And the command to start up your METASPLOIT framework is, okay, wait, let me clear the screen first. Is MSF console. So once you start your PostgreSQL service, you can go ahead and start your MSF console with this. And there you go, you can see the framework starting. And whenever it starts up, you can see a beautiful banner. And under that banner, you can see the stats of METASPLOIT framework. It has 2006 exploits as of now, 1000 plus auxiliaries, 566 payloads, 343 posts, and etc. So these are different modules which we are going to talk about in the next slide as well. So let's get back to the presentation. So yeah, you have different others too, post and knobs and etc., evasion techniques, whatever, etc. But then let's talk about the three basic things in the modules of METASPLOIT. The first basic thing is exploit. So generally you might have thought, there is not much difference between exploit and a payload, but then there is actually a difference between an exploit and a payload. So who can tell me what is the difference between an exploit and a payload?
Exploit to website access చేయొచ్చు and payload to inject చేయొచ్చు. And the payload inject చేయడానికి exploit వాడతారు.
Exploit is like breaking it into systems, and payload is after breaking in what you want to do.
Right. So that is something close. So So this example would be pretty much appropriate as well. So whenever you're taking your, for suppose, you're sick and you go to a doctor and, he recommends putting an injection. So the needle which goes into your veins is actually the exploit, whereas the liquid or the serum inside that injection, the injection tube, the liquid that actually works out on your sickness is the payload. So this is something about the exploit and payload in very, very simple terms. Now to get back to the technical terms, exploit is what breaks through that particular service, gives you an opening, and payload is the actual code inside that exploit that gives you access, or simply it throws back a shell to you so that you can navigate through the data in that particular system or service or whatever, etc. So now what is the third thing? What is an auxiliary? Any module that is not an exploit or a payload, something that is not used in exploit, that is called as an auxiliary. So what is the main function of an auxiliary is, other than exploiting and uploading payloads like Metapreter or reverse TCPs, auxiliaries can have scanners. Okay, so for example, before actually exploiting a WordPress login page, you might want to scan for a WordPress login page itself, because some people tend to hide it, or some websites, or whenever you're talking about login scanning, that goes out for generic websites as well. If it all doesn't have a login thing, what are you going to brute force? Something like that, is it? What are you going to exploit? Something like that, is it? So to find out the login, you can use an auxiliary login scanner to fetch that login. Once you fetch that login, you can run any exploit related to that with the reverse TCP payload. Okay, something like that. So something about auxiliary is that. And before jumping into METASPLOIT framework itself, okay, it's 7:15. So Before jumping into the actual exploitation process, I want to tell you some important commands that you're going to use in Metasploit framework. So once you get into the Metasploit framework using MSF console, and if at all you don't want the banner itself, you can use MSF console tag Q. Tag Q means quiet. It directly gives you this particular MSF5 shell without the banner that you see. So if at all you don't want the banner, you can use the tag Q. See, so the difference between the synthesis, you have a banner over here and you have this. And if at all you need a change of banner, if you are a design freak and you want to check out all the different banners over here, you can go ahead and type banner. This will give you all different banners. Okay. So they are very generic commands, so let's not get into much with them. So one of the most important command is search. The search command is used to search for exploits or payloads or something like that based on the keyword. For example, I want to search for backdoor. And I say search backdoor, and you have these many different exploits that have backdoor keyword in them. And not only exploits, but then if you don't specify the type that you're searching for, you can actually find some other stuff too. You can find auxiliary scanners, you can find exploits. Now, the other thing is, for example, I want to search for a payload. So I'll say search reverse underscore TCP, and you can find different payloads with the name reverse underscore TCP. So this is something about search. Okay, search command is used to search for different payloads or auxiliaries or whatever. Show. The show command is used to show the options when you set like when you set when you choose a module, that is, you choose an exploit and you want to see the options in that. That is when you're gonna use show options to see the options that you have to set. And set, this command set is to set the parameters when you open up with the options. Don't worry about this. I'm going to show you in the live demonstration right now how to get that through. And help is a pretty basic thing. And obviously the manual. Just go ahead and type help in MSF terminal. You'll get all the help manual as well. And use is a command to choose the exploit or payload. Okay. And then exit is again to exit back to your what you said, the main root terminal. Okay, so let me show you all the other commands that are written over here as well. So let's first see use. Okay, so what am I going to search for? Why not? Okay, so let me search for VSFTPD, a very common backdoor. So, oh, sorry. Yeah, so when you put use VSFTPD, it searched for the term VSFTPD, and there was just only one particular module matching with that name, and it actually set that exploit. Okay, so let's go ahead further, and now I'm going to put up show options. This is going to show me the options. Okay, so now we're going to see something about set. So the thing is, whenever you're running through an exploit, you have to configure it with the settings, with the parameters. Is it? So what parameters you want to set is, whenever you upload a payload and create a malware, you have to give the listener options to be your IP, that is the attacker's IP and the attacker port. And if it is a remote exploit kind of thing, a backdoor that has a payload built in, which you don't have to assign it separately, it will ask you for the R host. And let me tell you, every particular exploit that you take, it definitely has these two particular parameters, R hosts and R port. What do you mean by R hosts? Is R host is the victim, that is a target's IP address. Whereas in my case, I have Metasploitable as my victim running up. So I'm going to set my R hosts to 192.168.1.13, and it, as you can see, it's set up this particular thing, and I know that it is running the VSFTPD, the FTP service on port 21 itself. So I'm not going to change the default. I'll let that R port 21 be. And to confirm it, I'm going to use the show options again, and you can see that the R host is set up over here. And now all you have to do is type the word exploit or run. So if you see here, you can see that a command shell is opened over here, and it is interacting with the Metasploitable, and you can see that you have actually successfully gained access to that. So this has given me a non-interactive shell. To make it interactive, let me actually make this. If this comes up, okay. So that is, there is some particular command to make it interactive. So let's get that video. So let's actually see whatever is present inside the Metasploitable. So if you see, these are all what are actually present inside the Metasploitable. We have actually got access to the Metasploitable. So you want to see something else in that? Maybe you can go to the root folder. Where is the root folder? So root folder, it took me to the root, and inside the root you have these desktop, reset logs, sh, whatever. So one thing to be said is you've actually successfully exploited the VSFTPD 2.3.4 backdoor. You've gotten into that. So this is how you generally use Metasploit framework. Okay, abort session, Control C in the abort session. The shell is closed over here. So you can actually go ahead and use different kinds of exploits or something like that. Okay, and moreover, you can also create malwares with Metasploit. Okay, so one thing you're going to use is MSF Venom when you're creating a malware. Let's talk about that later. So this is to create the malware. So for example, if I want to if at all I want to make a malicious APK file, okay, so for example, if one particular friend of yours is a game freak, and he loves the game so much that and that particular game is only proprietary, you claim that you have the free version of it, but then on the back on the behind you actually bind a payload, and you actually bind a malware to that particular APK. You send him, and he opens that, gives the permissions, and you can see a Metasploit session open up in the Metasploit framework that you're using. Obviously, you have to do a lot of configuration for that. But then, so these are different functionalities of Metasploit that you can actually use. So let's get deep about the gaining access part and also maintaining access part in tomorrow's session. Okay, so you'll be seeing about persistent sessions, migrating your processes after you gain access to that particular system in Metasploit and something else. So something like that. So in tomorrow's session, I'll also tell you how to create malwares using VSF Venom. I think that is not there in the course right now, but then as an additional knowledge, I'll be giving that to you in tomorrow's session. So yeah, don't miss out tomorrow's session is what I'm going to say right now. So this was just an introduction to MSF console and Metasploit framework. Go ahead, search for Metasploit framework, see what all you can do. And this is your assignment for today. You guys have to check out the tools Crunch and Medusa. Medusa is something very similar to HYDRA as well. So that is a password cracking brute forcing tool. And Crunch is a password generator. I mean, wordless generator like CEWL. So Crunch is so powerful that it will generate passwords or it will generate words based on the patterns that you give. So if you give any regex, based on that, it will generate the word list or something like that. So I just dropped a hint about Crunch. So you might want to go ahead and check out Crunch and Medusa. And apart from that, the next is get your hands dirty on MSF console, use that, and don't forget to start your Postgres service as well. and look up for Armitage. So Armitage is a graphical user interface version of Metasploit console. So MSF console, as we were seeing, was the terminal based version of this, right? So getting back, Armitage will be the GUI based version of it. So you can go ahead and actually check that out. So that being the session for today, let's continue tomorrow. Do you guys have any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay, all good. Cool then. Don't miss out tomorrow's session. We are actually going to learn how to use Metasploit framework in a really good manner. So that being said, thank you guys for being here today with me. This is something about today's session. Hope you guys enjoyed this class. So all right, bye. Signing off. Let's meet you tomorrow. Done.